The effects of corruption is seen everywhere around us, and this is despite the huge natural and human resources Nigeria is endowed with promises of heaven on earth without poverty, suffering, and total bliss. During campaigns for electoral votes, politicians paint pictures of themselves as saviors and hope of the common man. But after getting into offices, most of them expectedly renege on these wonderful assurances due to their involvement in different types of corruption, leading to diversion of public funds to their private coffers. This tendency is not restricted to those in power only. Even the common man on the street is also corrupt, as it engages in all forms of economic and financial crimes as well. Today we shall look at the roles of the common man in fighting this menace called corruption. My name is Aisha Mohammed, and with me on the program is
Abbas Abubakar Omar. Aisha.
Yes, Abbas.
It is quite unfortunate that rather than finding a common front to tackle corruption, most people are looking for others to blame without taking responsibility. True. In such scenario, how can the common man cooperate and contribute his own quota with anti-corruption agencies set off to fight these corrupt tendencies among the people?
Well, Abbas, what price are you willing to pay to either go up to social and economic strata through crime or fight it out to make the country better for everyone?
Thank you for staying tuned to The Eagle, a program that not only informs you about the activities of the EFCC, but also enlightens and sensitizes you on the modus operandi of fraudsters, the effect of their nefarious activities on all of us, and how we can tackle the menace.
In its avoid resolve to hold former or serving government appointees or officials accountable, irrespective of who they are, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) has arraigned the former Executive Secretary of the National Health Insurance Scheme (NHIS), Professor Usman Yusuf, before Justice Chinyere E. Nwechong of the Federal Capital Territory High Court, Kuchwako, Kuje. Mardia Umar tells us more.
The former Executive Secretary of NHIS was arraigned on a 5-count charge bordering on embezzlement, conferring undue advantage and fraud to the tune of 90,439,178 naira. The count read in charge that Professor Usman Yusuf, sometimes between 2016 and July 2017, while being Executive Secretary of the National Health Insurance Scheme (NHIS) in Abuja, within the jurisdiction of the court, and being a public officer in the services of National Health Insurance Scheme, used their position to confer unfair advantage to himself when he approved the purchase of a vehicle for himself at the cost of 49,197,075 naira against the appropriated budget of 30 million naira, thereby committed an offence contrary to Section 22 and punishable under the same section of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act of the year 2000. He pleaded not guilty when the charges were read to him, and in view of the defendant's plea, prosecution counsel Francis Osani prayed the court for a trial date. Defense counsel O.I. Habib, senior advocate of Nigeria, did not oppose Osani's application for trial date. He, however, prayed the court to remand the defendant in the custody of the EFCC. In her ruling, Justice Nwechong adjourned the matter to February 12, 2025 for hearing on the bail and remanded the defendant in Kuje Correctional Facility.
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC), despite its demonstrable achievement over the years, cannot be said to have done all that it ever did on its own. Indeed, as one of its cardinal values, collaboration with other local and foreign sister law enforcement agencies, international bodies, CSOs, faith-based organizations remain critical in its operations. In demonstration of these collaborative efforts, The Commission and two other notable agencies, the Nigeria Customs Service and the Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit, organized a 2-day workshop bordering on currency matters. Mavdia Umar is still here for the details.
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC, in collaboration with the Nigerian Customs Service NTS and the Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit NFIU, have organized a 2-day empowerment workshop for 50 law enforcement officers drawn from various agencies. The workshop, with the theme Proactive Detection of Non- and False Currency Declaration and Application of Appropriate Sanctions, was held at the EFCC Academy, Cairo, Abuja. The Executive Chairman EFCC Olaolu Koide, while addressing participants, said the workshop was a very important step by government to exit the grey list of the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, stressing that the importance of Nigeria exiting the grey list can never be overemphasized. The EFCC's boss, who spoke through the Commandant, EFCC Academy, Deputy Commander of the EFCC, DCE Chinwe Ndubeze, further reiterated that the workshop was aimed at equipping officers of the critical agencies manning various land borders, sea, and the airports with the required investigative skills to proactively detect all forms of non- or false declaration of currencies flowing in and out of the country, thereby tackling the menace of money laundering, terrorist financing, and other forms of economic and financial crimes.
The topic today is about proactive detection and declaration at the borders. Very important. Whether there is no declaration or the declaration is false. So this will be I believe this is the purpose of our discussion, and how this goes a long way in determining the controls we have in the nation as it relates to money laundering.
Law enforcement agencies represented at the workshop are EFCC, Customs, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency NDLEA, NFIU, Department of State Security DSS, Nigeria Immigration Service, Nigeria Port Authority, Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, and Aviation Security. Officers of these agencies were trained to foster interagency collaboration and formidable synergy needed to assist the EFCC and the NCS in implementing all recommended actions by the Financial Action Task Force in exiting Nigeria from grey list by May 2025. The workshop largely empowered participants with requisite skills for apprehending, prosecuting and sanctioning perpetrators of false and non-declared currency by punishing and denying them the opportunity to enjoy the proceeds of their crimes. The Controller General of NTS, Bashir Adewale Adeniyi, who was represented by the Controller S.M. Yahya, pointed out that over the years, the NCS had maintained close collaboration with relevant agencies and stakeholders by exchanging ideas and vital information which have yielded dividends.
The Initiative for Leadership and Economic Watch in Nigeria has expressed willingness and determination to team up with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC on monitoring of budgets to ensure its optimal performance. The group, comprising several civil society organizations led by Ambassador Splendor Agbonkpolo, made this disclosure in Abuja during a courtesy visit to the executive chairman of the EFCC, Mr. Ola Olukode, at the Commission's corporate headquarters.
The CSO leaders disclosed that they came together to operate as a committee, basically to focus on budget monitoring and implementation in the country, saying that the budget was their main concern. According to Agbonkpolo, the CSO's committee decided to team up with the EFCC because they believe that the fight against corruption was not a one-man show, nor that of any one agency alone. He said EFCC needs Nigerians to assist it in terms of reportage and information, and that they believe that corruption starts with procurement. If corruption is tackled from the point of procurement down to the point of implementation, at the end of the day, the money that will be stolen from the budget will be minimized. According to him, the need for everyone to come together as a formidable team to render independent services that would enhance the work of EFCC was very important. In his response, Olukoide, while thanking members of the delegation for showing interest in seeing that Nigeria moves forward, noted that success in the fight against corruption could be achieved only through collaboration. He stressed that every Nigerian is a victim of corruption and that the menace could be stopped through budget implementation and monitoring.
According to World Economic Forum, corruption, bribery, theft, tax evasion, and other illicit financial flows cost developing countries, including Nigeria, a whopping $1.26 trillion per year. This amount in practical terms means the loss of adequate food supply to citizens, well-equipped hospitals and schools, well-constructed tarred roads, pipe-borne water, and other state-of-the-art infrastructure.
Abbas, despite all of this that you have enumerated, do you know the greatest blow corruption had inflicted on Nigerians and indeed Nigeria?
You can educate us more, Aisha.
Well, it is that corruption is now being seen from different perspectives based on selfish, religious, political, and ethnic consideration of those who perpetrate this criminal act rather than what it is, a distasteful affiliation. How can we change this narrative? Where those who receive the more from the effects of corruption seem not to be interested in fighting against that which impoverishes them. Let's go to the interview segment where Miracle Chukwu-Agwoziem and our guest will be shedding light on this topic to tell you all you need to know. Over to you, Miracle Chukwu-Agwoziem.
What the role of the common people becomes, the ordinary people who are the reason for the existence of government. How do they support in the fight against corruption? Today we have Dr. Chido Onuma, a Nigerian journalist, writer, and human rights activist. He's also the coordinator of African Center for Media and Information Literacy, AFRIMEL, Abuja, Nigeria, to talk on the role of the common man in the fight against corruption. You're welcome, Dr. Chido.
Thank you for having me.
Who is an ordinary person, or who are the ordinary people in the society?
Of course, we are all citizens. It's just maybe the position they occupy in the political, economic, or social ladder that people would use that term, ordinary. So when, as I mentioned, the position they occupied in the position they occupy in social relations, in terms of the economy, the politics, and so on. So you're looking at the market women who generally has to be at the market every day to be able to survive. The bus conductor, the driver, maybe people who also engage in a lot of menial jobs. People who generally would have to go out every day to work, and if they don't work, it's going to be hard for them to put food on the table.
We know that every society has levels of corruption. So can you describe what is economic and financial crimes?
Well, economic and financial crimes, as the name implies, it means crimes that border on things that have to do with money, for want of a better explanation. So it could be misappropriation of fund, whether as a civil servant or as a bank worker or somebody who works in an organization or institution. So if you're looking at financial crimes, it involves money, financial transactions, economic crimes. So it could be crimes around sabotage. There may not be direct involvement of money, but it's something that affects the economy.
What are the effects of economic and financial crimes on the ordinary people?
You can look at the effect on the health system and then on the social fabric of society, the roads, abandoned road projects, potholes in our streets, issue of course, food, the most important part of it, finding it hard to eat, whether 3 square meals or 2 round meals a day, the rising costs of food items and so on.
So what are they expected to do? You know, their roles in the fight against this scourge or the menace, economic and financial crimes?
Our own approach to the fight against corruption has always been that it should be people-centric, that the citizens, the ordinary people, should be at the heart of the fight against corruption because they suffer the effects of corruption. And I appreciate slogans, some slogans like "see something, say something," which the EFCC has had over the years, which kind of intersects with what we do here. We run a whistleblower project which encourages citizens to be active in the fight against corruption, to see something and say something. But of course, there is another dimension to it. When they see something and say something, apart from getting something, are those that they report, are they being punished? Does the law take its full course when it comes to issues like this? We know the political dimension of it. When people are arrested, they try to blackmail anti-corruption agencies and say that it's political winch hunt and so on. But more importantly, I think the Commission, in concert with civil society organizations, need to work closely with citizens to ensure that where they find infractions, where people, maybe a hospital was supposed to be built, it wasn't built, because at the end of the day, it's not just that it's people, citizens, ordinary people who suffer the effect of corruption. We are in the best position or in the best place to report these things or to know where these acts have taken place. So it's hard to find a corruption case where there is only one person involved.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chido. But before I let you go, what are your words of advice, to those listening or watching us?
Well, thank you so much. I think it's been a wonderful interview, assessing the fight against corruption from the point of view of the common person or the ordinary person. All I can say is that Nigerians need to rally behind institutions like the EFCC. So it's not about the EFCC. Nobody owns the EFCC. Those who are there today would come and go. It's about us having a strong institution, a national institution that is respected in the fight against corruption, economic and financial crimes. Yes, you may have situations where you have officers of the commission that misbehave, but I'm sure there are enough checks within the system to take care of those. And there are channels where people can report erring officers. But generally speaking, the advantages of having the EFCC far outweigh anything that anybody would think of to the contrary. So it's important that when institutions like this suffer tragedy, like the recent case of the death of an officer of the commission, that the public comes together to show support, stand in solidarity with the commission. If there are personal grievances that people have, there are channels, there are ways and means which people can express themselves. The death of every Nigerian should worry every person. More so, somebody within the law enforcement community on active service. It's almost like the death of a soldier in a war front. It should command that same kind of respect and dignity. So my charge to fellow citizens will be to ensure that we show respect for the work that organization. This is not a private army. It's not a private organization. It's a state institution. It's representative of our nation. Its image. It's one that would have to sell outside the country and so on. People are welcome. I'll be the last person to say don't criticize institutions or even individuals for what they do, but there are ways and means to do that. It's not for us to make light of the kind of work that these organizations do. They do it in the service of the country. And as I said, if the people who are there today, tomorrow they will leave, a new set of Nigerians will come and do the work. The important thing is that they are working based on laid down rules and parameters of engagement. So I can only wish the Commission well, encourage it to continue to do what it's been doing in more than 2 decades now. And just take the criticism in good faith, and where it's possible to make changes, and you do that. But overall, I think the Commission has done creditably well, and it shouldn't allow certain things that people say, whether even on social media. I mean, how many, if you look at the voices on social media vis-a-vis the number of citizens we have in this country, that's and then, of course, people can't come in from purely particular personal point of view and so on. The other thing, of course, is that the Commission also needs to have some robust engagement mechanism. Sometimes some of these people may be from lack of understanding and so on. So there is need to continue to educate, re-educate, educate Nigerians, and I think hopefully they would understand and make the work of the Commission easier.
That's it on the interview segment. My name is Miracle Chukwuagozem. Back to the studio for the rest of the program.
That's where we draw the curtain on today's episode of the program The Eagle. We will be back next week with another interesting episode. Let's keep the conversation going. Send us an email at info@efcc.gov.ng. You can also call us on 080-933-22644. Also, follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
If you notice or suspect any economic or financial crimes happening around you, just simply use the EFCC mobile app Eagle Eye to report. Let me also invite you to a live discussion with EFCC on EFCC Connect, happening on Twitter, Spaces, and Facebook every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Do you have burning questions to ask EFCC? EFCC Connect is the right platform to do so. And also listen to EFCC Radio 97.3 FM, the voices against economic and financial crimes. I am Aisha Muhammad.
And I am Abbas Abubakar Umar. Remember, your role in the fight against corruption is a civic one. It is a patriotic duty. God bless Nigeria.